In this video, I'm going to share with you the 8 stages of loss that is associated with the twin flame separation. So stay tuned as we talk about the difference between detachment and attachment. Hello, fellow flames. Welcome to part 2 of my detachment series. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 8 stages of loss that's associated with the twin flame separation on the twin flame journey. And in case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. This is part 2 of a detachment series that I have that is in place and working to get out there to you. And it also is piggybacking some of the new book I'm writing about on detachment. And I'm seeing so many people in this energy right now are trying to figure out how to get off this fence of this journey and to connect with more of themselves and to be able to have more fulfillment and stop being stuck in that twin flame paradox of, should I hold space for my twin or should I let go? And I actually did in part 1. That was the actual series of that. So I'll put a card up here so that you can check out that part 1 if you have not done so. And stay tuned for more parts to come to this. So just before we jump into those 8 stages and we discuss the difference between detachment and attachment, I want to just briefly share just a little bit about this concept, because when we think about this process of detaching, and we were going to call it here, letting go of our twin flame. And most people are, they're not able to do that. It's very hard for them to take that step of what they need to do to move forward with that. And so, I always say, how do you let go of someone that really gave you the keys to find your truest self? That it's impossible, and they're inside of you anyway. And, they're mirroring back to you what it is that you're to learn within yourself. So in this process of letting go, you're not exactly letting go of them in the physical dimension, even though you might be. You're really letting go of your own shadows and your own pain and all the things that they're mirroring to you for you to stop running from you and for you to face those fears inside of you. And so as we do that, it creates a lot of pain, and it creates this physical separation of them that hurts, but the pain is coming from the soul connection from the inside of your own separation of yourself. And what tends to happen in that attachment or detachment, we're filling up that void if we're attaching. And if we are detaching, basically we're letting go of the shadow sides of ourselves, which is, either way is painful. And it can become a real damned if you do, damned if you don't situation when you're trying to get out of the loop and stuck in that paradox of, what do I do? Should I stay open or should I let go? And a lot of people go to that concept of the all or nothing, that, they either got to block someone or they're all in. And this is not about any of that at all. It's more about you being able to face yourself in that mirror, basically. And one of the things that I mentioned in part 1 that's very important is when you're letting go, you're not physically letting go of your twin as much as you are as letting go of control within you. And as far as to detach from that, that's a surrendering process. That's really surrendering the outcomes and the experience and the parts that are reflecting back to you. So let's talk about the difference between the attachment and the detachment idea and concept before we go into those 8 stages of the loss due to the separation. As I said, the attachment has to do with that you're really attaching to your twin flame in this case, that is causing the separation of you to seek something outside of yourself. Where the detachment basically is you're detaching from the parts of your shadows that are linked to the triggers from your twin flame, and you're putting the focus and the emphasis back on yourself and willing to take accountability and responsibility and to do what you need to do in your thoughts, feelings, and your actions that support you coming into balance and aligning with your highest truth and your highest self and your highest good. So you're detaching from them physically, potentially, but that's kind of allowing those triggers to stop so much being caused from the outside, but willing to look at them from the inside. So with that, as I said, why do you even attach to begin with? You attach because of the inner void. And really what you're trying to do in the search of this, creating this more empowerment, you're looking to fill up that void from the outside in, which is a way of like pulling back your power, but it's coming from the outside in. And so the first thing you need to do is, I would recommend, is identifying what are your triggers and your core traumas. So what is your twin flame triggering as far as those core traumas go? Is it rejection, violation, betrayal, and guilt, and shame, your unworthiness, your undeservingness? It can trigger anger and rage and the grief, and again, that loss of power. And it also can trigger you, like if you've had a lot of emotional suppression, that you've stuffed everything and you haven't been able to speak your truth, or you haven't learned how to, which in my case is one of the things that's been my issue most of this journey. We also sometimes take on the burden, the responsibilities of being the caretakers in the different types of relationships that we become, where we become that, like basically that mother, that nurturer, or the fixer, or, we try to somewhere in the control of that, we try to hang on to the idea that we're going to do what it takes for them to get what it is to give you what you need, instead of you giving yourself what you need on the inside. By you choosing to look inside and to heal these core wounds, this is allowing you to experience that purification process, to eliminate the triggers from within and to heal those core wounds. And one of the ways I teach clients to do this is to purge the fear pit. It's your abdomen. It's around your solar plexus. It's one of the reasons why all these things get stored into your abdomen, and they each store in different quadrants of your abdomen, connected to each parts of these traumas that I just mentioned, of the rejection and all the fears. And you really need to dig into that fear, because that is where what's happened is, not only have you from the trigger created multiple dimensions. So remember, your twin is really only activating you from the outside, and because they're activating you from the outside in, then it's not even your twin necessarily that is the only reason you're experiencing this. That trigger is going dimensions in the depths of your soul that's beyond this time, space, or reality. And you need to clear those core traumas and be clearing them to the beginning of where they started originally. Sometimes that can be all the way back to Atlantis. Sometimes it can be a past life. Sometimes it can be, a trauma in this life. And it's finding which one is the first one that this pattern started, and going back there and clearing that one. And that clears all the rest. It's like dumping it out and taking out the trash. It's like emptying your cache, so to speak. So when you clear this fear pit, I recommend you just go into your abdomen, where it's your trust center, and you learn not only how to release those cords of attachment to all those traumas and the energy that you've stored in that, but if you don't reprogram your process of how you are responding to those triggers going forward, you'll keep stuffing those fears and triggers over and over. And that's what most people are doing. They're clearing and clearing and clearing and clearing, but they haven't reprogrammed what it is they need to reprogram on how to prevent that cycle from continuing to run subconsciously, that's creating the pattern over and over. And they may be layering through different lives or different experiences, but they didn't go the core trauma that started it and erase it and reset it and rewrite it. My childhood wounds online course is perfect for that. There'll be a link below if that's something that resonates for you. Module 1 of that is also free, so be sure to check that out. It's a great resource. So now let's talk about the detachment side of this, and why should you even detach? In order to give yourself the permission to reconnect to yourself, which actually, now that if you detach from these things, these core traumas and your twin that is triggering them, and you look within and you're willing to face your own fears or face your own shadows and those shadow aspects of you, then you're creating the empowerment inside of you, the self-love inside of you, the balance inside of you, and you're healing those traumas that have are creating your responses, your mechanisms, and your wiring of your conditioning of how you've handled those traumas. So I said in the first part of, learning how to, stop attaching, basically, or knowing what that is, you need to identify your triggers to those and what those core traumas are and where they came from. In this part of this detachment, you also need to identify your reason for the attachment. All right. So do detach. Why are you attaching? And there's several reasons. There's letting go of the control of it. And there is the fact that you might not like change. You may not want to experience what it takes. Like, you might even come aware of it, but you may not want to take the action it takes for you to make the changes you need to make in order to move out of a situation. And you get so hung up on the outcome, and everybody goes straight to the twin flame journey of thinking, the outcome, are we supposed to be together or are we not? And what a lot of people hang on to in this, they hang on to the concept and the idea that what if, like, first of all, I'm supposed to be with them? What if, like, this is like the greatest it ever will be and I walk away from that? What if I like step away and then I'm the one that screws it up, and then I create this sense of betrayal or guilt inside of myself that says I was the one that messed it up and I should have faced them or stayed more open? And only you can really choose that. And again, I said people go to the all or nothing here. So you have to remember, it's about the balance, and it's about both sides of the coin are happening, and it's about choosing which side you're going to go with and giving you the peace within in the moment. And then releasing your conditions that are the programming of your responses, releasing your expectations because of the triggers that it's triggering from those wounds. And then you need to also release your experience, the idea that you're attached to the experience and the memory of it, and the idea that it is a label that you subconsciously would think of the twin flame journey as being hard, and letting go of the story of how hard it's been. And also how good it's been, being it's the only way that you're going to experience that again, or that you won't experience it again. To know that when you find this balance in yourself, and to know that there's going to be a balance taking place between detachment and attachment always. That in itself is a yin and a yang, and a dance of just, am I going to detach? Am I going to attach? Am I going to detach? Am I going to attach? And so it's about choosing the right thing within yourself. It's going to bring the impersonal empowerment that will deliver over the time of coming into balance, and that you will not only be giving your power away through the attachment, and you will not only gain personal empowerment through the detachment, but you come into this balance of this inner state of self-sovereignty. So let's discuss the 8 stages of loss that you go through, that is a real physical, emotional, mental trauma in of itself. As you let go of your twin flame and you go into the separation, you go through a real live experience that's like a grieving process, and it's very natural. And so know that the initial stage of that, the first stage, is you go into a soul shock and trauma from the separation. When the soul separates, that trauma and that separation can put you on that OCD mode of that obsessiveness, that connection, that sense of loss, almost like a sense of having been on drugs or given a drug and now you need another fix, okay? Because it's such a deep magnetic pull that's a real live energetic connection, that is a bond that is so deep that you can't even cut that bond. And that when that bond goes into that, separation, it creates a trauma and creates such a shock on the body that goes back to the original soul trauma, or let's say anytime you've had soul trauma and all of your traumas and your core wounds all along. So the separation is creating a shift in the energy that's creating, like, I'm going to give you a best way to describe this is if you were to think about getting a tooth pulled. And I don't know if you've ever had your wisdom teeth pulled, but I have. And I got dry socket. And they take out the teeth. They extract the teeth. So it's like extracting the connection. And then the memory pattern within the socket says, I'm missing something. And it goes into a pain and it hurts. And like when I got my wisdom teeth taken out, it was a constant ache and a constant void and a constant pain. And so I'd go in and they had to inject with this gummy fluid that like would dissolve slowly and it would layer out. And the memory of the body was letting go of that, tooth, basically, just same thing as your twin, that over time, it allows the body to not be so dramatically pulled apart. See, when you layer through it, it's a process that the body can take a little bit at a time. When you get it yanked away, it's creating a shock and trauma that the body's like going into a state of real shock. And that's where a lot of this post-traumatic stress syndrome's coming in when you go through detachment of karma, period. And even other people, not just your twin, this can happen to a lot of things in your life. And I see this a lot with people that are going through healing their core wounds. And even myself, I've went through the post-traumatic stress disorder of this release of this energy. So know that it's real when you go through that shock. And the second part of that, the second stage, as you move through that, when you get your senses and you get your bearings from that sense of being that loss, and you're feeling that ache, and you're feeling that connection and that separation, and you have the crave and the void and went back, it sends you into a guilt that says, what did I do wrong? And like, know that you didn't do anything wrong. It was like the thing, most people, like most everyone I work with, they're always afraid to take and make their actions and decisions with their twin, or a lot of people, because they're afraid that the actions they take will scare them off, make them run. And the thing is, you have to come into a place of empowerment that says, it doesn't matter what I do, if I need to be me, and I need to do me, and I need to do what I need to for me, and I don't need to, justify that to anyone or get validation from anyone or feel guilty because it doesn't align with them. And if they can't align with me, then basically, then you need to align with what's going to be their own highest good. And then as you're having this feeling of what did I do wrong, it moves you into step 3, because the what did I do wrong is a part of the trigger that triggers the obsessiveness, and that creates this sense of a bargaining, kind of like in the stages of guilt or the stages of loss or death. Okay, and I want you to know you're literally going through a stage of death, a death of ego, a death of your aspects of you, a death of all your shadows, a death of all these things that are blocking you from being your highest self. And the extraction of those things are creating the ache. And then, you have one sense, you have a part of you that's craving the connection back because it's such a high. And think about it, when you connect with twin flame or anyone on that high vibration, and they activate you, and it becomes this kaboom energy, and it lights you up, and it literally is like a jolt of morphine or maybe heroin, basically. I mean, it's that intense. And some people that go through that connection of that bondage to where they get attached to that bubble love, right? And that bubble love is only one phase of love. Can you sustain love on a deeper level in everyday life and live that out? And that's where sometimes relationships fail, because they're bubble love relationships, but they can't sustain the depths of what it takes to experience a long-term relationship. And that's what we're redefining here. We're letting go of all these wounds that's blocking the long-term relationships and all relationships right now. So in this obsessiveness, it's forcing you to surrender. It's forcing you to move into yourself. But in the process of that, number 4 is you will go into potentially this hopeless phase, feeling like I'm never going to have that again, and that there's no one out there for me. And so it's like a real woe, a pity kind of thing. And it's going in and being the victim in this. You've moved into the victimhood at this point. And when you get into the victimhood part of this, then it shifts you into the stage 5 of the shattered heart. When you start to realize, okay, this may be over, this may be done, and it cracks you open. But it has to crack you open so that you can fill yourself back up with you at this point. And again, it's the death of you that you're experiencing. It's you dying inside that is only your twin mirroring to you, and everything you see about them is really you, and all the parts you don't like about them is really the parts you don't like about you. And so it's turning inward to then become the nurturer and the healer and the divine mother and the divine lover within that says that I can heal this heart. And as you do that, then you start to take some power back, but you go from this all or nothing phase. It's sort of like you say, okay, well, I've got the shattered heart, and like it hurts so bad that the first thing I need to do is just cut them off, block them, be done. I can't take this anymore. And you go from that phase of I'm either all in or nothing. And that's also saying you're attached to the outcome. And that's also having control of it. And that's also saying that you're managing it. And that's also saying you don't want the change of it. And so what it is you're micromanaging that now. And you're saying that I'm going to like go from, if I can't have this, then I'm going to be in control still. The thing is, you're still in control. Then I'll have this. And it becomes that the same issue, but you're managing how you're processing it in increments. And I want you to know that that's okay, because that means that if you need to, we tend to go from an all or nothing to find neutrality. We move from that space into the anger, because now when we go from all or nothing and we go from all to nothing, the to nothing then begins to take us into the anger. And the anger has to come up in order to purge and purify and heal all of the wounds. The anger is really not angry at them, even though it could be all the things they're doing to you and feel like it. But it's really angry with yourself when you get to the truth of the matter, for having put yourself through all of this, for having allowed all this to happen, not just with them, but everything, and down to your karma. And that's when you finally, they come in, they shake you up, they point you to you, they make you angry at them, and then you block them, and then you go away, and without their presence and in the silence of them, you suddenly realize, oh, wow, I cleared something, and that was deeper than all of this, and now I can see something, and I can see more, and then you start to go, wow, I see the gift in that. I see how much they're still helping me, and they're not even around, and I can see how, if I keep looking in that mirror without them even there, how I'm finding more of me. And you move into 8, which is acceptance, and now you're accepting the process, you're accepting them, you're accepting yourself. You're finding the gift in what they gave you in this process, and you're going back to the true essence of the divine love that it is unconditional, and it is without expectations that we put on these relationships that really are just setting everyone up for failure. And so, yes, this is the 8 ways. I'm so excited. So stay tuned. There's going to be more parts to this coming. There's going to be some tips for you to actually detach emotionally from your twin flame. There's going to be tips that I'm going to give you that's going to actually help you take steps to letting go of them in the physical attachment, so you can, let go of the actual stages of detachment. I was telling you more of the stages of the separation here, that you're going through this grieving phase, but steps that you can literally take action for to create that detachment. That's coming. And also know, this is such a hot topic and being called so much that I'm writing as fast as I can, but I had to take a step away for several days from writing to recharge my own self. And this has been a very impactful time with this full moon that we just had in the Scorpio full moon. But I also was guided to create another group healing session and program that's moved beyond the twin flame paradox. It's a 6-week program, starts June 21st. And it is limited space, so be sure to check that out below. I'll have a link for that. If that's something that resonates with you, I plan to do this again because I feel like it's really needed. And so in the meantime, I hope you're having a fabulous, fabulous week, and stay tuned for more in the upcoming videos. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Make sure to like, comment, share the shine. And be sure to leave a comment and let me know what stage of the separation you might be in, okay, of this loss. Namaste.